If we saw the world from the perspective of someone that sees ley lines or power lines or earth energies and connections of monuments, invisible lines somehow joining historic structures, then the world might look a little bit like this. St Michael's Mount connects to St Michael's Mount and on to other monuments also with the name Michael or Michelle or something. And here in the UK we seem to have scores of these lines, all dissecting various monuments, implying that all of these sites, these hill forts, these stone circles, these churches are all somehow built on a specific alignment.
And what most people don't realise is that actually you've got a very, very similar power centre, perhaps not as strong, in your home.
Okay, pause the montage. Let's just look at something quite mad here. I've got my own line. Have a look at the screen. In fact, I've printed it off. Even better way of doing this. This is my own line. I've got 4, let's call them monuments on this line, and they all line up perfectly. I've created my own ley line already at this stage in the video. Fantastic. I think what we'll do is we'll come back to that at the end of the video. In the meantime, let's get into this with this man here. This is Alfred Watkins. Now, he came up with this book in the 1920s, The Old Straight Track. I bought this not knowing what it was. This was just like a book for me on old trackways. Perfect. Until I realised that it was actually all about these lines, and Alfred Watkins wanted to connect places with lines, and he draws loads of diagrams. In the 1920s, this book pretty much was a flop. Nothing happened. All the archaeologists of the time just completely ignored this notion. There was no science or logic behind it. There are so many people buying into this. YouTube videos, forums, Facebook groups. Oh, the Facebook groups. All seemingly buying into this notion of energy lines connecting places. For example, Uffington Castle, maybe 800, 700 BC, seem to somehow connect by a line we can't see to Wayland Smithy over there on the horizon, constructed probably 2,000 years before that. Google searches have gone through the roof with this stuff. There's news articles, Countryfile, BBC, Countryfile, Telegraph, The Guardian. There all is clearly a market for this stuff, and people are just buying into it like nothing else. What exactly is going on here?
That pulsate through the earth.
So that's the power centre of this particular house.
And this underlying intelligence creates many worlds that sit within worlds.
So this is really frustrating because I give you every assurance, I've been researching this a long time, and I continually find myself in corners, in echo chambers of what is seemingly credible websites that give us such a detailed explanation, maps, diagrams, everything that seemingly help us explain why this place is connected by energy to that place on the horizon. But when I actually try and understand it, when I try and read it and get some logic out of it, I can't see the science, I can't see the archaeology, I can't see the evidence that there is such a thing that exists. So I can't really go much further with that. I kind of want to try and understand the person instead. The person that has a need to believe that monuments connect places by energy lines with seemingly zero evidence for that at least that I can understand. Let's try and understand why people have this need to believe in them. Okay, full disclosure and a big disclaimer, this is really important. I'm not religious in any way, but I absolutely have in my life a lot of people that are religious and I love them deeply. And this is the same with ley lines. This isn't a video where I'm here to try and mock them, or in fact, as I've been researching this video, it turns out that there are a lot of people that I know and respect and like that are into ley lines, and they find kind of a comfort in it. So this is really me trying to understand that notion rather than mock it and debunk it or whatever. If you are a ley line lover and earth energy lover, then tell me about your theories in the descriptions, comments below. I'll do the description.
Or linear concentrations do appear to go to areas that had significance in our ancestors' past.
I found a wild mark here. Where have you brought me?
We are in, oh my god, we've got Greywell in Hampshire, not far from Basingstoke.
Right, Greywell. Mark is going to try and help me understand the concept of dowsing. I mean, you don't do ley line dowsing as such, but you do dowsing for different reasons, is that right?
I do dowsing for earth energy currents or earth energy signatures.
Right, so it is kind of what I'm talking about. This is perfect, this is excellent.
I'm a bit sceptical about ley lines especially, not that they're not there, but I think a lot of it is wishful thinking.
Is there a difference between ley lines and earth energies?
Yes.
You kind of said one yes, the other no.
A ley line is pretty much a straight alignment of ancient sacred sites.
Right.
An earth energy current is, I think, a natural electromagnetic field that travels around the earth. You can pick them up just using dowsing rods.
Okay.
And they weave like a serpent. They're not straight, they weave.
Right, this is perfect.
Yeah.
Right.
I say on my videos on my channel, I'm always fascinated why ancient sites are built where they are. Is there a long lineage going right back to Neolithic, maybe Mesolithic times? This church here is 11th century, probably Saxon foundations, before Saxon foundation was it an ancient tribal settlement?
But you need to do like a calibration. Calibration is my word, but you need to
I like
kind
the
of...
word.
Yeah,
I'm going to do a little bit of a Dowsing calibration.
Yeah.
Because there might be nothing
yeah.
here. Hopefully there is, but I think some people look at it and just trying to make the dots fit.
Yeah, joining dots.
We're very much pattern-seeking mammals.
Yes. Yeah,
so
we
I don't
are,
actually go out looking for ley lines. I look for... I've done a few videos about it, but I'm looking for the earth energy currents that go through these sacred sites, which is slightly different.
Okay, so Mark did his calibration, stuck them in the ground. Now you apparently don't have to do that. Now we went around the side of the church, I believe on the west side, and straight away Mark found, I don't know, let's call it a line, or he found a spot where the dowsing rods crossed. Now he went back and forth a couple of times, did it in different ways, and every single time the rods crossed.
This is cool. I mean, so both of them basically faced... When you did it, every single rod you did faced in this broadly the same angle.
So we went to the other side of the church on the east side to see if you could sort of make a line, and lo and behold, once again it did cross, almost dissected the church. It was time for me to have a go. Now, as you know, I am as sceptical about this sort of thing as anybody on the planet.
I know you're a sceptical bunch. You're thinking, well, Mark's kind of probably just like tweaking it with his hand or tweaking it with his... You're thinking like there's something going on, so I'm gonna have a go in a minute and we'll see what happens.
So we tried to go over exactly the same spots as where Mark had success, and I didn't have a great deal of success on the first one or two goes. Nothing happened at all.
Yeah, they're both pulling that way.
You're pulling back towards the chancel, which is there, yeah? So that could be where it's flowing out.
Yeah, they want to do the right-hand side thing. They're not crossing, but they want to do that.
So can you? Oh, right, okay, that's good.
That's his. Look, look, that's not me. That's doing it there.
Right, okay, that looks about right.
Because I can't push it that way. I'm trying to push it towards you. So, as I say, I've done a lot of research on this. I've tried to find some kind of physical evidence, something tangible. I've tried to find peer-reviewed papers, and of course I've got nothing. But I've got a Marq. Now, we've just left the church, we've had a bit of fun, it's been great. And do you know what, right? So I felt a movement on a couple of times. I watched Mark have movement on the dowsing rods. It's really compelling. So I kind of really, I want to try and delve deeper and understand the logic of it, the science of it, because it's really compelling. And as you said earlier, human nature wants to make you...
Pattern-seeking mammals, as the late great Christopher Hitchens used to say.
So we clearly found what was seemingly to us a line. We've joined some dots and we've made a line, and now I think, oh, I want to know more. That's for another day. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.
You're very welcome. No, thanks very much, Paul. Thank you.
Okay, if I'm brutally honest, that was one of the most fun afternoons I've had with Mark. I found it really compelling, and I'm kind of I could feel the dowsing rod pull in a direction, and I'm kind of thinking, oh my goodness me, I've got something here. But then I need to take a step back and go, hang on a minute, we're assuming that these people of ancient times built a site on that point because they knew about this energy line. You can't see, you can't feel, and I want to understand the science of why people find this compelling, almost rather than science, if that makes sense. And again, I don't want to take anything away from those people. So I did a lot more research, and what I found was truly compelling. Have a look at this. Okay, hat's good. Probably need to turn the heating up instead. Lighting's good. Let's get into this. What if I'm wrong? What if there are earth energy lines? I mean, the dowsing rods did do their thing. God, what if all these lines that connect monuments are right as well? What if there is this mystical alignment that I don't know about? Oh God. Okay, jokes. I've always tried to avoid this topic of ley lines, but I've kind of been drawn to it lately. I've seen a few videos that I shouldn't have watched. Either way, this is what I've learned from my research. It's the 1920s. Alfred Watkins talks of lines in his book, The Old Straight Track. This essentially is the start. It's new. We have had antiquarians prior to this walking the landscape, all doing proto-archaeology of some description for hundreds of years, and not one mentions lines. Camden, Stukely, Colt Hoare, John Hodgson. But Watkins takes a new route. In fact, John Hodgson, let's take him, he wrote 3 books on the history of Northumberland in the early 1800s. It turns out he was, unbeknown to him, doing archaeology. In fact, he was the person to realise it was Hadrian that built the wall. He wrote hundreds and hundreds of pages, literally thousands, with no agenda, no means to make a large amount of money. He just wrote everything down because he felt it was important. He felt it was the right thing to do. He was a historian, an archaeologist, without realising it. No lines to speak of in any direction. And this carried on. I could give you hundreds of examples of people doing this type of work with no agenda, just an actual physical desire to go and find out exactly what stuff was and learn about it and write it down and tell everybody about it. So we have for 200 to 300 years antiquarians, perhaps more. They weren't always right, but they tried to be with evidence. They mapped, they drew, and sometimes they dug. So no one really took on board Alfred Watkins' ideas, just disappeared into the ether for about 30 or 40 years, and that was until the 1960s when things started to change. Science started to learn a lot more than it ever had done. Archaeology did the same. We were learning about the world around us, in the history around us, in a monumental way. I kind of feel this coincides with a time when there was a movement of people that were scared of losing religion, folklore and mystery about the world around them. Was the science becoming too much, the archaeology becoming too much? And maybe that was considered a threat to these long-held beliefs and stories. The Watkins movement almost started this earth mysteries, ley lines, alternative archaeology, geomancy, and despite the long gap between the publication of this book and the 60s and 70s, well then this started to really take off. And what's more, in the 1990s, well, we see a whole new wave of publications of books on this sort of topic, the ley lines and the earth energies. The world starts to connect like it never has done before, and we have book after book after book, all seemingly when the internet arrives. But from the mid-1990s, whatever the situation, we now have ley lines on steroids.
Right, I'm with Headley Fawn, Warren Brand from Lindley 360. Guys, general quick thoughts on ley lines.
I am a ley line skeptic.
Tick. Or not tick, it doesn't matter. There's no judgment here.
Ley lines, I think I'm open-minded, to be honest with you, in terms of nothing practical, but there might be some sort of connection.
Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't new. But on this scale, it's absolutely huge. We have an ancient Jewish apocalyptic religious text, the Book of Enoch, from something like 2,000 years ago. This has been interpreted in many ways, many of which I don't understand or desire to, but the text, the angels have taken the chords. They have gone to measure, all seemingly taken as evidence that we have ancient civilizations mapping and measuring. I knew ancient civilizations would come into this at some point, and of course that implies that the ancient civilizations, when they knew something that we didn't, had technology that we didn't, lines. Ley lines, geomancy, earth energies, grid lines, you name it, it's all here to stay. Now they have method and community. And community is the most important thing, certainly is for me, so I don't want to remove that or take that away from people. It gives people meaning in life. It's a religion in itself. I just want to understand why sometimes we ignore the science. If we want to understand why there's a monument there, a hill fort, church, a sacred site, well, let's do the archaeology, let's do the science and find out exactly why, because that can tell us so much more. Do get the compelling nature of this, because for me, well, it was really easy to join a line via these sacred places. I don't think we're stepping into a world of flat earthers and major conspiracy here at all, but there are similarities and that does concern me a bit. We are essentially stepping into a world of ancient civilizations, people that had a technology we don't understand today, and we're almost questioning sort of big archaeological organisations or science organisations, and for me, that just feels a little bit... You see, the thing is here,
the most important thing of all, most of the knowledge that you and I have about the workings of the natural world, the physics that you can't always see, the big stuff, black holes, the Hubble telescope, the archaeology you don't see, instead we just read about it. And we live and we work and we pay taxes, which in part go to funding sciences and archaeology, although probably not enough. But they are the building blocks, the foundations. Every academic paper adds a bit more research that went before, and they're the building blocks of our knowledge, and it's all here for you to see.
In effect, none of us truly understand each of those blocks that have gone before. Each block had its own specialist researcher. Now with that in mind, well, we now have a system of debate and scrutiny and understanding that only allows accurate information to be added to this tower. When Alfred Watkins brought his new idea to the table, well, it was based on no other blocks that had gone before. It was just a new idea based on nothing but lines that connected places.
For 1 million years now we have evolved to trust our senses, and for this last second of humanity we aren't that well adapted to doing that, to just accepting that a system is run by government, companies, impersonal systems, universities that we will never afford to be able to go to. And that is maybe why we want to not trust. We do our own thing, we believe in ancient civilizations, or despite no evidence whatsoever.
Okay, so I'm sounding really negative, and that's not the goal of this video. We'll always have science and archaeology to underpin building blocks of the things that we learn. But here's the best thing for me. Well, science and archaeology, they give us the stories that we love, the stories that are tangible, real people. Tell us the toll of the people that lived here and built this thing. We don't need a line to connect it from one place to another, a magical energy line, to sort of say that the ancients had technologies that we don't understand, a pre sort of technology. Well, that's almost insulting to the people that built this, because they did have technologies and they did use them. So let's try and understand those better rather than just making up lines and connecting places. I guess that's my thought, without sort of trying to insult anybody who does believe in those energy lines. Okay, I did promise you I'd tell you exactly what my line was. This one here that goes through these 4 sacred monuments. Come and take a look at this. Okay, with a significant hat tip to Matt Parker. Well, it turns out that my map that we've drawn here, well, that connects these 4 monuments, well, it turns out those monuments are actually Greggs stores. I just removed quite a lot of the Greggs stores and left myself with 4, which made up this perfect line, and I could probably draw a few more lines. So just to highlight, this video for me has been a fascinating one that I've really tried to understand the people that believe in ley lines and energy lines and all those sort of different things. And again, it's not there to mock them, because I know a lot of people that believe in that, and it gives them comfort, it gives them a community, and that's a wonderful thing. I do think we need to rely on science more to try and understand some of these monuments and why they do connect in certain ways. We can use archaeology for that too. I don't think they really do connect in most cases, but some people do find comfort in that connection, which is fine. I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. Click subscribe, and we'll see you this time next week.